The Nation Network presents Coming in Hot.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the great show we like to call it, Coming in Hot. I'm Brent Wallace alongside Jason York. The State of the Union, basically, Yorkie, we need to get to, I would say, today. As always, this show brought to you by Renfrew Pro Tape. Go to renfrewpro.com. Also, check all the major retailers. They are the official suppliers of the HDA tape, along with others. They're the ones with the green core. They will hold this show together all afternoon long. Yorkie, how are you, my friend?
Fantastic. Feel pretty good. I stayed up late for the game in San Jose. I couldn't stop watching Erik Karlsson. I thought I was watching Karlsson back from the prime Karlsson days. He was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I know that's not what Senators fans want to hear. We can talk about the game later, but that's my first time watching a complete Karlsson game. Man, oh man. Probably the only positive thing from that game. Well, Stützle was pretty good too. I was amazed with Erik Karlsson, Wally. Man, he was. I saw the points, I saw the numbers, but I just can't believe how well he's moving out there. Good for him. Nice to see him having a good, productive season.
Are you just trying to put gasoline on the fire at like 3 seconds into the show?
Hey, listen. There's an angry mob building in Ottawa right now. There's pitchforks. The people are coming. They're coming, and you can't stop them. They want a head on a platter, and this is what happens. It gets to this point, and wow, and could you have a worse opponent coming up in Vegas when you absolutely have to have a win? So, hey, I get it. The people drank the Kool-aid this summer. They drank the Kool-aid. They thought it was going to be different. It's not. And anytime you tell people something, you tell them the rebuild's over. You tell them we're going to play meaningful games, and it turns into this, which is you couldn't have imagined it being any worse. As far as 31st to the end of the league, Wally. So that's why people are angry. People drank it. They expected better, and now people are a little upset because the Kool-Aid was stale. It wasn't good Kool-Aid.
So one of the issues is when you get to this point, as we wait for Elliotte Friedman to join us, we also encourage you to jump into the chat on YouTube and let us know your thoughts. You got questions for Yorkie, we'll sort it out. Is fan apathy. And so at least right now, you have a passionate fan base that's angry and they want results. They want better. So they're demanding change, which is better than them just going, okay, well, it's another year. We'll wait for you guys to get better. So I do say, at least we haven't gotten to the apathy part. But
yes,
there's got to be something. There's got to be throw the fans a bone, something.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm out around town. I'm out with beers for my buddy, and that's all people are talking about. So I agree. People care. They're passionate. And that's what people always said, that Ottawa, they don't care about sports. It's not a hockey town. It's people, but they do care. People it's been a long time. It's been 6 years now. And 6 years of losing, and this isn't what this franchise is all about. You look at the future and how many years this team used to make the playoffs in a row. You go back to the glory years of 2007. Losing sucks, and the fan base is letting their feelings be known right now, and I don't blame them. It's a results oriented business. You got to win, and right now. This team isn't winning, so I don't blame the people for being angry because this isn't what the expectations were. But there's a lot of different reasons for it, and we've talked about it at length the last couple of shows here. And hey, I'm not going to excuse DJ Smith, but that's the easiest thing to do. Blame it all on the coach. Easiest thing to do, and that's usually what happens. If this keeps happening and they keep losing. You can't replace all the players. So eventually, I do think a move will be made if this continues, if the road trip, because at first I didn't because of the sale of the team, but you can't go on like this. It's something's got to give, and we'll see what happens on the remainder of this road trip. But man, I haven't seen the fan base this angry in a while.
And it's been a while, but enough, and I get it. Enough is enough. I just don't know where, and I think we've brought this up in the past. It's either the guy or the, I guess, management that built the team, or it's the guys who are coaching the team. It's one or the other, right? Or maybe it's both,
Yeah.
but I don't see them making both changes at the moment. So they've got to sort
No.
out something. Calling up Lassie Thompson and sending down Jacob Larson doesn't move any dial.
No.
There's scratching, and we'll get to the lineup changes, and scratching Matthew Joseph and Mark Kastelik doesn't change anything. There needs to be some kind of fundamental movement, but I just hope the fans can hang on long enough.
Yeah, I'll tell you something, because everybody says, why are they dumping the puck in? Why are they not making plays? It's a system thing. It's a structure thing. I'll tell you again, the way you win in the NHL is down the middle with your back end. And let's be honest, too, the goaltending hasn't been up to snuff for the Senators the last little while here. They haven't been good enough. Timely saves versus the other team making big saves. If you want to play possession hockey in the NHL, how do you think you possess the puck? It comes out of your own zone with a group of defensemen that can use the middle of the ice. You get the puck to the middle, to your center iceman, and then you got to attack the middle, and then you got to make a pass. That is really tough to play possession hockey if the weakest parts of your team are your defense and your center ice. And thus, there beholds the problem with the Ottawa Senators, in my opinion. They're too heavy on the wings with where they built this team to date, and things are going to change. The Ottawa Senators aren't going to remain forever young down the middle. Like, the future is bright. My thing is, I didn't like the messaging in the summer because I kept scratching my head. I'm like, okay, DeBrincat's a winger, Giroux's a winger. They haven't addressed the back end. I'm like, who's going to play center? Who's going to play center? Yeah, Josh Norris is a really good center iceman, but even Josh, what does he have, 130 games played in the National Hockey League right now? And then you go down to Stützle, who's just learning the position, and then you go to Pinto, who's a rookie. So I didn't see it, Wally. And listen, I didn't see this coming. I thought the team would be competing, but that's where the injuries came into play. And where did the injuries happen? 2 defensemen and your best center iceman. So when you get injuries in those positions where you're already pretty weak at, as far as, I'm not saying skill-wise, at least at center, but at defense, that just compounds the problem and magnifies what was already a weakness of inexperience and on the back end of just not being good enough. So that's what happens. And also, too, the coaching staff, I'll say this about DJ Smith, probably his biggest error in my eyes was being too loyal to Nikita Zaitsev. That boat should have sailed a long time ago. Playing Zaitsev as long as he did. And that's just a thing of being too loyal. And that should have been dealt with long ago. All
right, so we'll deal with it after, because right now I don't want to keep what we'll call our very own star boy waiting anymore. Elliotte Friedman is standing by, of course. If you don't know him by some slight imagination, he hosts 32 Thoughts podcast. He's on a show called Sportsnet and does a lot of stuff we see occasionally. And he obviously just rolled out of bed. Elliotte, nice to see you.
Nice to see you guys too. You hear me okay?
Yeah. Hey,
yeah,
Elliotte,
you sound great. You look terrible, but you sound great.
Hey, you know what?
Are you doing this for me? Are you doing this for me? Because I like to send you messages when I know you do it on purpose. You like to be that crazy mad scientist on television. Is this for me that you're doing this, or is just
No, to be honest, I've kind of the feeling, Jason, that if I'm not actually on air, people are going to have to deal with this. That's kind of my rule now. So it's kind of the way it goes. The other thing I would say is, like, the viewers and the fans, they seem to like it. The worse I look when I come on, the more they seem to enjoy it. So, as you know, we always do this for the enjoyment of the watch, because if we didn't have an audience, we wouldn't be employed. So if they get a kick out of it and they love it, I love to do it.
See, and I went and got a haircut to make sure I looked okay for you to be on.
You're back. You're so lean. Like, look at that. Like, it's too perfect, Brent. But then again, I've always said you're perfect.
Elliotte, we're going to try and fix your audio for 1 sec. While that, we're just going to ask you to reconnect while that transpires. Yorkie,
I thought that
one
was
thing
me
about
while he
Elliotte,
was with the
no, for
with
a
the
change,
audio.
we get to blame
Whoa.
someone else. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what happens in the magic of, we call it live TV, but anytime you go live, you never know what's going to happen technically.
How are we?
So there. Oh, there. You sound perfect.
Okay, perfect.
So Elliotte, I don't want to keep you. I know you're busy. Can we get
No
to
worries, man.
I want to get to the sale because you've been all over this. It seems like you've covered more Ottawa Senators news than any other team. They are fun off the ice, that is for sure. What can you update us with? Are you listening to all the Weeknd albums to see if there's any messaging in there?
So this is what I would tell you. I think, I heard that Ryan Reynolds is still taking meetings with groups. I believe there were at least 2 scheduled for this week, and probably more. And this is very real. Like at the beginning, I think everybody kind of laughed and said, "Okay, this is a fun story." And now I think the NHL has kind of recognized that this would be a very good story for the league, and they've kind of there's been contact between him and the league, and I think there's a question that's going to be is like one of the things I think everybody's trying to figure out here is he going to join a particular group, or is he going to is the league going to say, okay, whoever gets the Ottawa Senators, we'd like you to have Ryan Reynolds as part of the group. I think that's all being sorted through right now. The other thing too is that now the Weeknd. So this one dropped on my lap. That's pretty good on Friday, and I spent 2 days trying to track it down, and still am, to be perfectly honest. And my initial reaction was, why would the Weeknd have any interest in the Ottawa Senators? He's a Scarborough guy, and he's very proudly Toronto, and Scarborough specifically. Well, it turns out that 2 of his managers have Ottawa connections. One was born in Lebanon and moved eventually to Ottawa. Another was born in Iran and moved to Ottawa. And now I don't think he reached out. I had heard that somebody had reached out to those representatives to see what his interest would be, knowing all the Ottawa connections around him. And the other thing I was told by one of my producers, Amal, is that I guess one of his best friends is Belly. And Belly is a big Senators fan and has done things with the Senators before. So I don't know if this is going to end up happening, Brent, but I do think people have reached out to either him or some of the people who are around him who are very, very connected in the music industry and have said, would you be interested in being a part of this? And, the fact is, I still haven't gotten an answer yet. So I don't know what the answer is, but I do know he's been contacted, or his representatives have been.
Well, Elliotte, I'll point out, I think it's Chris Stevenson, and I apologize if I got this wrong, tweeted that group with the Weeknd has connections to the Kimmel Group out of Toronto, which is another group that's trying to possibly purchase the organization.
Yes, it wouldn't surprise me if it was the Kimmel Group that had reached out to him, but I don't know that for sure. I don't, so I can't say 100% one way or the other, but it makes a lot of sense. Like Brent, as you know, a lot of people who would know the answer to this question are completely silent, and the longer they're silent, the more you tend to believe it's true. But you should never declare it 100% until you know for sure.
Well, I'm going to throw that out there, and that is Ryan Reynolds seems to be the exception to what Gary Bettman used to allow to happen. I'll go back to Jim Balsillie. If you remember, if you talked about trying to own a team, he cut you out immediately. So this is a little different to me, and maybe it's the social media era or whatnot. But the people that are dead serious are the ones you never hear from. So is there any issue whatsoever? And I know it draws a lot of attention. Is there any issue of having Reynolds talk so openly or be rumored so much about this?
No, I don't think there is, Brent. I don't think there is at all. In Seattle, 2 of the members now of the ownership group of the Kraken are Marshawn Lynch and Macklemore. And I do remember that when I had gotten a tip months before it got announced that they were potentially going in, and nobody would talk about it. And it was basically what you said. But the world, if you even think about it, it's been how much the world has changed even in a year or two. everything just gets thrown out there now, and you just have to deal with it. You don't control the moment that Ryan Reynolds goes on Fallon and says that, you have no control over it, and your choice is to embrace it or not embrace it. And I think wisely in this case, the NHL has recognized the smart move is to embrace it. If you have these kinds of people coming out and saying they want to be part of your club looks cool, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, Elliotte, the NHL has always taken a back seat worldwide. If you look at the NFL, baseball, obviously soccer. So anytime you get these guys on Jimmy Fallon, and I never thought I'd hear this, 2 words together with the Ottawa Senators. I don't know if you've ever been to Vanier, but he mentioned Vanier, which is, I've been there a few times. I'm not gonna. It's part of Ottawa and Ryan Reynolds. So to me, that's good. That's good for the brand, and for Gary.
What's
Bettman,
wrong with that? Yeah,
it's great. It's great.
It's. I think it's a win-win. And look, like if he's there more and he's around more, I mean, what's the L? I don't see the L. I really don't. Now, do I think that Bettman would allow him to be the number one decision maker of the organization? No, I don't believe that. Like I'll tell you a story a few years ago. There was, I believe it was Vince Vaughn, if I remember correctly. He was a big Blackhawk fan, and he was at the Stanley Cup final. I don't know which one it was. I don't remember if it was 1, 2, or 3 that Chicago was in. And I remember at the time they asked him to do some interviews, and he said, "Look, do me a favor, get me a box, and I'll do everything you need me to do." And they didn't do it. And to me, that was like a loss. You've got to, you have to embrace this kind of thing. That's like all the leagues make these trade-offs. They say, you know what, we want this person involved. We have to make it worthwhile for them to be involved. Now, and that to me is the kind of thing you should be doing. Now, with Ryan Reynolds and ownership, I don't think, or the Weeknd or anybody else, that's not a freebie. If you want to come in and actually have a piece of the pie, you have to come in with real money. And I don't think that would be any different in this case. I understand that, but still, the positive publicity out of it overwhelms any bad things, I think.
Do you get a sense anybody's the front runner? There's the Andlauer group in Hamilton. There's Rocco Tullio in Oshawa. The Kimmel group, as I mentioned. Apparently the Desmarais group. Is there anybody that you're sensing might have an inside lead?
I think the 2 things I always think about is, who does the NHL know? And the NHL knows the Kimmels. They had a minority share of the Pittsburgh Penguins. They cashed out when the Penguins were sold to Fenway Group. And I've been told the NHL really likes the Kimmel family. Michael Andlauer, as you know, is a minority partner in the Montreal Canadiens. The NHL likes Michael Andlauer a lot. I've done a bit of research into the group, Sal Galacciotto, that and I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing his name properly, that the NHL has brought in to do this. He is, like, I asked a few people who know him, and they said he is a hilarious individual. And the one thing that he is great at is he is great at creating auctions. And I think there's going to be people involved here that we haven't heard yet, at least who take a look at the books. And I think we're going to know around the middle of January who the front runner is. But I think this is going to be an auction. And if you're 100 million shy of the top price, or you're way shy of the top price, who the NHL knows is not going to help you. But I think if it's close, and there's a couple groups that are close, I always think that the groups the NHL knows, and that includes the likes of Andlauer and Kimmel, I always think that's an advantage.
No, fair enough. So let me put it to you, and I don't know if you know anything about this, but there's lots of venom right now with how this team is performing on the ice.
I was listening to you guys off the top. Yeah.
We firmly believe that perhaps the sale is holding up any kind of change off the ice. Do you believe that, or do you have any inclination that might be possible?
The only thing I have heard about that, Brent, is that, look, if they wanted to make a change, I think this is what someone told me. there's a difference between adding on contracts before the team is for sale and adding on contracts once the team is officially for sale. Okay. And also, in a lot of cases, you would strip down something before you sell it. Ottawa on the ice went the exact reverse way in the last year. They gave big contracts to Stützle. They gave a big contract to Norris. I don't think anybody's even questioning these deals. I think people understand that. I think in a lot of ways that made the team more valuable because there's a good core there together. Once you put the team up for sale, though, I think it becomes harder. It's generally understood in business that once a team is for sale, you do not add long-term commitments to it. Now,
right.
So what I would think is I don't think it necessarily blocks them from making a change. What I think it could blocking them is from making a long-term commitment. That's the way I would look at it. Now, I'll tell you this, the two I'm looking at, I still think you guys want to sign DeBrincat, and I still think, depending on what happens, you guys want to sign Zub, excuse me. I wonder about is if that's not an indication to anything I was doing before I came on the show. I would wonder if that would all kind of be able to happen now. But generally, my experience, and I talked about this with someone last week, is you do not add long-term commitment during a sale process. So I would think if there would be a change, it would be internal.
Elliotte, so
I think the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I heard this summer from a lot of people that those moves were made because, well, let's be honest, this city, this fan base has been pretty distraught for a long time. That's the biggest buzz we've had here in Ottawa. That's the biggest buzz we've had here in Ottawa in a long time, and people were happy. But now we're at a point, and when they made those signings, I was still scratching my head because I'm a big believer in center ice position defense.
Yeah.
Did you believe after those moves were made that Ottawa? I didn't. Nobody saw this coming, but did you think they were a playoff team after those moves were made?
You know, I was listening to what you were saying before while we were trying to figure out my audio, Jason, and I think you hit on the key thing, and that is that if anything, they were guilty of overselling in terms of, you know, here we are, we've got all these guys signed, and we're going to be much better this year, and the rebuild is over. And I understand what happened here. I think that, you know, I've been talking about this recently, and, you know, what happens is there's such a new, better feeling around the team in the summer. Stützle extends, Norris extends. You think you've got your core in place. You're really excited. And, you know, I don't like almost anything about Rudy Giuliani, but in his book, he has a line about set the bar low so you can jump over. So it's easier to jump over, right? And Ottawa was so excited as an organization that they set a high bar. And put it this way, I really thought, Jason, that a victory this year would be you guys were playing meaningful games in March. I didn't think you guys were going to make the playoffs, but I thought you'd be better. And, you know, like I was looking at the last week, the goal differential. I've been talking a lot about this lately. You guys have the goal differential up until the last two games of a 500 team. You just have been losing some games you should have won. And now when you have the result against New Jersey and you have the result against San Jose, and everybody was so excited before the year, you have the reaction that everybody's having. And I don't blame the fans, not one bit. Fans are fans. This is how, without their passion, we're doomed. But I do think that if the Senators could go back, Jason, they would have tried not to set the bar as high as they did.
Yeah, interesting.
I disagree.
Interesting too. Hold on. One thing Elliotte said there too. Interesting too. You would pay DeBrincat the $9 million to keep him and make him the. Well, basically, he'd have to be the key piece here, right?
I would consider it. I mean, you know, like he's still in his prime. I mean, I know he's not off to the start that everybody wanted, but I mean, put it this way. if you let him walk, like Jason, my thinking is if you have a great player and you think a guy is a great player. Now, if you don't think he's that good, Jason, and you want to let him walk, that's fine. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
My point is when you have somebody of that talent, do you let them walk?
No, absolutely not. No, he's
now
a
you could
great
trade
talent.
them. You could trade them.
Yeah.
You could.
Yeah.
But my argument is like I don't know. Like I have him. Like I'm looking at that list there. Like Giroux is the only player that like of the skaters I'm talking about here. Like I think Tkachuk, he's still going to be a great player. He's going to be a great player. I think Stützle, he's going to be a much better player and a really good player. Batherson, I still think he's growing. DeBrincat's still growing. Pinto's still growing. Like I see 5 guys there that you should be winning with in 3 or 4 years. You know, the other thing too is I always think about this. How do you think DeBrincat has come to terms yet with the trade? Like I'm watching Huberdeau. I think it took Huberdeau. He goes from a relaxed situation in Florida to a really intense one with the NHL's most super intense coach in Calgary. The scrutiny is different. His entire life is different. And he's stunned by the trade, right? He never sees it coming until the phone call comes. I don't think he even felt remotely comfortable until he went to Florida last weekend. Like sometimes I think it takes these guys time.
Oh, for sure. I just don't know where he fits long term with this team because you have your guys, and I always go back to the power play. And I know with Ottawa, Elliotte, it's not the number one team you follow. You got to follow 30. You got to follow 32. But I look at their power play. We've talked about this a lot. You got Norris, you got Batherson, you got Tkachuk, and you got Stützle, and you have Chabot on your point. That's a very good power play. Now all of a sudden you got to figure out where does DeBrincat fit, and that's what I always come back. That's what I always come back to with him. And to me, you have a 40-goal scorer. The only way he's going to continue to be a 40-goal scorer if he's taken a minute and 30 of every single power play. And to me, something has to give in that situation. That's what I thought from the beginning when they brought him in, because I really think they should have used the money elsewhere and brought in a defenseman. You know, we all talk. It's tough to get a defenseman. It's not always available. I get it. A lot of different reasons, but that's my thing on DeBrincat. I don't see a fit with the current structure of this team to really highlight what this guy does and not score goals. So we'll see. I totally agree with you. Great player, would be very attractive, but to me, it was more a move to sell tickets, get the fan base excited, and it did that. But I don't see the fit long term. But that's just me.
But you know what? That's fair. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with anything you're saying there. Like Jason, for me, it's like I think if you're a great player, I don't care if Alex DeBrincat scores 40 goals. I just want to see him making an impact. And like if the power play is not set up for him, but he's a 5, like I understand that he's probably looking at it like I want to score on the power play. I want to get 40 goals. But if you're making an impact at 5-on-5 and you're finding other ways, you can sell that, I think. Like my whole belief to hockey is you need 2 things. You need great players and you need depth. And the one place I completely agree with you is that it's very hard to find both. And the other thing here, and this is one thing I do think has become a big factor for Ottawa, there's a lot of players who don't want to come to Canada. So when you're going out there and that is why like Jake Sanderson and Jacob Bernard Docker are so important because they're yours and they're always going to have a bit more loyalty because you drafted them and you developed them. Now, who knows? When they become free agents, you never know how they feel in 7 years or whatever it is. But the bottom line is they're always going to feel a little bit more loyalty to your team because you brought them there. And like that's the thing you have. I think in Canada sometimes we forget that like if I was good enough to play, I would play in Canada 100 times out of 100 High risk, high reward. I like that. But I look at this, and that's one of the problems I think Ottawa has now is you can't often trade for great players because often they'll say no, or I'm not staying there for a long time.
Elliotte, what are you? I'm trying to picture you. I had this visual in my head: puck moving D, power forward. Or you're probably more of an agitator. I could see you out there stirring the pot. Maybe a little bit of a Sean Avery.
No, I don't have that quick a wit. I was, when I was a teenager, I'm embarrassed to say, or I was a kid, I was soft as butter. I'm a lot edgier now. So
here's my surprised look.
Yeah, I would have to say that I don't know. Like, I'll tell you this: when I was in university, I played goal because if I could do it over again, I would play goal.
I could see you as a goalie. Good guy.
Yeah, I did. I did it in beer league.
In the room.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I had friends who were or their team was gonna be thrown out of a league if they couldn't find a goalie. So they say, "We don't care how many of you stop, just go in and play net." And I loved it. I did.
Get in there. Oh, that's awesome.
Listen, Elliotte, back to your point about you playing in Canada. When you see your paycheck from Canada to like Vegas and the warm sun, I'm thinking you might change your tune a little.
Oh.
Who do you think I am? Gary Lawless?
Hey, Wally, my best day was when I got traded from Anaheim to Nashville, and I saw the 20% pay increase I got from the no state tax. Hey, believe me, that's a thing in the NHL when guys decide where they're going.
Oh, I believe it. I totally know it. I totally know it.
Anyway, last question before we let you go quickly. Can you sort out the Tyler Myers, Nikita Zaitsev non-deal, deal, whatever happened? And
sure.
I think later you said that it wasn't Zaitsev who turned it down. Do you think that is possible? It may still happen. What all transpired?
Well, the one thing is Myers has to say yes to it, right? So that's like, I don't think Zaitsev is saying no to many situations right now because it's better. No. Look, like he's fallen out of favor there. He was sent down to Belleville. I think he would just love to go anywhere he might have a chance to play. I'm not convinced that Myers would say yes to it, but I don't think it even got to him. I do think the two teams talked about it, about something like that. And like, I know Myers gets a lot of grief in Vancouver. I'll tell you this, that guy plays hard and he cares a lot. And I think he could help you guys right now. And they both have the same term. Zaitsev has a lot less money. $1.5 million less money. And, I think that Ottawa was looking for a guy they could plug in who would be better than what they have. I think Vancouver was looking for a little bit of cap relief and he would give it to them. Like I said, I think they talked about it, but I heard what the issue is they couldn't agree like what else would kind of be in the deal, the sweeteners. Like Myers has a bit more money. Myers has a signing bonus in July, like that kind of thing. What else might or might not have to go in it? And as a result, I think it kind of fell apart.
Fair enough. It's, you know what, I would do the deal. I know there seems to be an awful lot of upset people in Vancouver with Tyler Myers' play. As I said yesterday, he plays the second most amount of shorthanded minutes. He is a battler, and he brings an element of size and strength on that blue line.
I'm doing that all day long, guys. I agree with Elliotte. That's a no-brainer, a huge upgrade. Zaitsev's no longer an NHL player. Tyler Myers is an NHL defenseman with, let's face it, what is he, 6'7", reach, can defend, kills penalties. Still a pretty good skater too, guys. Like
and you know what, Jason, he cares a lot. He cares a lot. Like you bring a guy into your room who has a lot of passion for, like Zaitsev, you can tell, like he's struggling there mentally and physically. Like, I just think you bring a guy in who's just in a better place if he was to agree to
100%.
it. But like I said, I'm not
100%.
I'm not convinced. The one thing I do think, I think your GM is out there scouring under every rock to find another defenseman. I don't think there's a lack of effort here at all.
Yeah.
Well, okay, Jacob Chychrun, anything up to the update?
Like I said, yeah, he did. And he played a lot last night. I watched a little bit of it. The one thing is that they didn't have a match. I'd reported and I'd heard, Brent, that there was just no path to a deal between these two teams. Now, as my grandmother used to say, you plan, God laughs, and maybe the way things have gone now the last few weeks for Ottawa maybe changes their opinion. But, there were things that Arizona was interested in that Ottawa wasn't willing to do. And I'm not convinced that's going to be any different right now. Like I do know that one thing that you guys have worried about is you make the kind of trade that you regret for years to come because you're in a bad situation. And I do think that is uppermost on the Senators' minds right now. Uppermost.
I'm going to throw you out a question from a fan before we let you go. And I
Sure.
don't know if you know the answer, so I apologize. Ryan Heidman wants to know about Nick Jensen. If he would be a fit on Ottawa's blue line.
Nick Jensen, I do think would be available. I just don't know. The question is when Washington's going to start doing a lot of this stuff. Like, I do think they kind of hope to see if Wilson and Backstrom could get back in and see how good they were before doing things. The one thing I would say, Ryan, is that Jensen's a rental, and how big a price are you giving up for a rental right now if you're Ottawa? Like, let's just say that Jensen's like, are you trading, for argument's sake, maybe a second rounder for a Nick Jensen right now? Like, if it's a later pick, I could see it, but a short term, like a higher pick, what do you guys think? I wouldn't do that for a rental if I was Ottawa right now.
It's funny you brought his name up, Wally. I like him a lot as a player.
Yeah, I like him as a player too.
Yeah, he's just an NHL defenseman, moves pucks. He's a good player. But where's Ottawa going right now? To me, the damage has already been done. The damage has been done. It's tough. Where do you go from here? You don't want to make a move out of pressure, out of that. If you bring Jensen I don't know what his contract situation is right now, Elliotte.
He's an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah,
unrestricted free agent.
Is you bringing him in? Is he going to stay here? Probably not. And again, as a player, you come to a situation like this, and it doesn't get any better. Your value can go down in a hurry, and that's a scary situation as a player. So, would he help? Absolutely, but I don't know if it's a fit.
You know who I wondered about, but I know the second year is probably the killer, is Mike Reilly.
Oh, right.
The former Ottawa Senator, Mike Reilly?
Yes.
Yeah. Left shot. I really think they need a righty, guys. A righty.
Yeah, I know they need I was wondering if he could play the other side. Like, the second year is tough. At least he's a guy right? I was thinking, I don't know if he can play the offside though, the weak side.
Yeah, I think the Myers deal it makes a lot of sense. And I really believe Hamonic's playing out of position. Hamonic's playing out of position right now, guys. He's not a top four defenseman. A great career, but I look at him when he was with the New York Islanders. If you had that Travis Hamonic, hey, fill your boots. But he's not the same player anymore. He's way better served in the 5-6 role, and that's just part of the little issues that end up being big issues on why this team is losing. Not just because of that, but all those little things add up to one big thing.
Elliotte, we appreciate your time. I know you've got mugs to get selling and T-shirts and stuff, so I don't want to hold.
I've got hair to comb.
I appreciate it, my friend. We'll talk to you soon. All right, take care.
My pleasure. And Yorkie, man, I love those videos. Keep them coming, man. I love those videos. Yeah, I love the Yorkie vids. I really do. And you know what? I'll tell you this, Jason. I think fans love them. I think fans love that stuff.
Well, I know you sent me the note. I'm that restaurant that looks like crap, but the food and the content, it's not that bad. Like, it's pretty good. Hey, man, as long as I'm looking like this, you're not the third best looking guy on the panel. You and I are both playing for second behind Mr. Perfect up there, but I make you look good. Thanks for having me on, guys. Good to chat with you guys, eh?
Thank you.
Cheers,
Take
man.
care, my friend. There goes Elliotte Friedman
Look
from
at you, eh?
32,000 course in Sportsnet. He is a solid individual.
Well, you just wake up and put one of those suits on where the hair and everything all comes together as one. It's get out of the shower and boom, Silver Fox ready to go.
No, but I'll take it as a compliment.
You know who you look a lot alike? You look a lot like my brother Jonathan. You've heard that, eh?
No, you know what?
This
is an honest. No. So when I worked in Montreal for a year in 1997 before coming to Ottawa, and I remember at the time they used to print media guides, and so they'd have all the players' faces whenever, and they're like, "You look like Wade Redden," and I'm like, "What?" Anyway, the next year, come to Ottawa.
Let's just
hold on, wait, hang on. Come to Ottawa the next year. I was out at. You remember the Vox in Bell's Corners?
Yeah, Brad Marshall still in that place. We had our Halloween party there.
Yes. So there was two people I remember came up to me and said, "Are you Wade Redden?" And so I got it a couple of times. And so I eventually went to Wade and go, "Listen, some people think I look like you. I'm not doing anything stupid. So if there's any rumors, I didn't do anything wrong." Anyways, like, don't worry, just go with it. So I've never forgotten that. And I was like, I don't see it, but people thought back in 1998 that I looked like Wade Redden. Okay, it's not the same. He hasn't aged, and I have, and he looks great, but not the 2022 guy, the 1998 guy.
I know. Reds looks like 2000 Wade Redden. The guy, we had him on 2 weeks ago. He looks skinnier. He's in shape. He's got a home gym in the basement.
Yeah.
Do you know why? He's got all daughters. He's got all daughters. So none of his daughters, well, they are playing hockey, but man, it's just different when you have boys and they're all in minor hockey ages you. Well, you got kids in minor hockey. Just puts miles on you.
Last night, my kid played at 9:30 p.m. in the east end of Ottawa, which was it's a 30-minute drive. I got home at like midnight. I ended up watching this second. So whatever the middle of, I think the second period of the game on, I ended up watching and being, but I'm in bed by 9 on most nights. This ages me drastically.
Oh, you know what? We could go on and do a whole show on this. We've got minor hockey backwards. We got all this ice time during the day. It just sits open. If we could get a redo, I don't want to get all philosophical here on minor hockey, but hey, the way Hockey Canada is going right now, if we could get a redo and do it through the school system and have kids doing hockey during the day at school, man, imagine not having to go to the rink, like you said, for 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Kids could actually stay home and do their homework and have family dinners instead of running around like crazy, because that's the time to practice from 12 noon on. So that's why you're seeing so many of these schools, these little prep schools come about, and these sport etudes in Quebec, because they're using all that dead ice during the day. And hey, guess what? Kids actually get better marks because they're not at the rink at night all the time. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, and so I have a friend who lives in Cobden or on the team. So for him, it's another hour drive home after a game. He's home at 1 a.m. in the morning. And so you got to be there 90 minutes before the game. So we were there at 8 left the house. So it's 7:30. So it was like a 5.5 hour day just to play. Anyway, by the way, just so we're clear, I love my kid playing hockey. I think it's phenomenal. He enjoys it. I would never take it away. It's just it's a commitment. It's a full-time job. And I will miss it in probably 2 years when he can drive himself.
You will. That is why the Ottawa Valley kids are generally tougher than the city kids. And I know this from experience. A couple of reasons. You got those long drives, playing on the outdoor rinks. And we also used to say this to kids. If you lose a game and you're a Valley kid, you're in the back of the pickup truck for the way home with an angry dog growling at you.
Yeah, absolutely. So true. By the way, let's get back to this then, shall we? And as always, coming in hot, brought to you by BEI, Bonisher Excavating Inc. They are in landscape, stone, and aggregate in the Ottawa Valley. They can also redo your driveway, all that stuff. Bonisher Excavating, always here to help with competitive pricing. Give them a call, 613-432-1120, BonisherExcavating.com. They're also looking to hire BEI, helping to shape the Ottawa Valley. Okay, listen, we got some news about the Sens today as they skated in Vegas. Also, they play Vegas tomorrow. Ottawa has not won there since their first time in Vegas. They're 1-1-2 overall. So that was March of 2018. Thomas Chabot skated today, and it says that he'll see how he feels tomorrow. So he could be back in the lineup, but boy, something tells me I don't know if he's being rushed. It just feels rushed. Mark Kastelik looks like he might be back. Actually, I think Gambrell is on that fourth line. Kastelik was the extra forward today, and Matthew Joseph back in after being a healthy scratch. Let's start with Matthew Joseph being out. And I know they're struggling. And so, Yorkie, you're a former player, so this is going to be in your wheelhouse. You tell me, if you're being scratched, there's a chance that there's been lots of conversations beforehand, didn't correct the game or whatever, which is why you're being sat now. I think scratching is the last thing they'd like to do.
So I'm guilty when I watch games of really focusing on the defenseman because I'm a defenseman and that's what I watch. So when I've been watching Joseph when he's been playing, I've noticed he's been real good on the penalty kill. He's got opportunities. Doesn't really have the goals to show for it, but he seems to be working hard. He seems to be doing something out there. Usually when you get into a coach's doghouse, it's for turning pucks over, for making poor decisions with the puck. And here's the thing with the Senators right now, and you're DJ Smith. If you want to grab the attention of your hockey club and make a change, when you just keep shuffling the fourth line in and out, you take Gambrell in, you put Kastelik, and you move those guys around, that's always to be expected because that's the easiest thing for a coach to do. So I think part of the reason Joseph's a guy that was signed. He's got a pretty decent sized contract. So you said a guy like Joseph, it's going to get the attention of the hockey club. And then guys are going to say, hey, well, if I don't pick up my socks, then that could be me next. Because if you keep doing the fourth line, there's really no threat because that's to be expected. Right. So I don't mind that move. And if this continues, that's really the only bullet the coach has to use. Ice time and lineup. So for me, we'll see what happens. When I keep saying we'll see, and it seems like this team's kind of in a state of that right now because if they do continue to lose, then the players, you're almost waiting for something to happen. You're like, okay, you even talk about it as a group. Is something going to happen today? Are we going to make a trade? Is one of the coaches going to be let go? And then that's what happens. And the Senators they're not there yet. But they're awfully close, Wally, and then that's a situation where everybody knows it's coming and it's not good. But to me, that's why you scratch a guy like Joseph. That's why they did it. Grab the attention of the rest of the team, and you really, as a coach, in today's game, you've got all these guys on big long-term contracts. Tough to scratch those guys, and who else do you really? If you're DJ Smith and you look at that lineup, who else are you scratching? You're not going to scratch DeBrincat. Played pretty well. He's your goal scorer. You're not scratching Brady Tkachuk. You're not scratching Timmy Stützle. He's your number one center. Pinto's been pretty good. You're not scratching Giroux. Maybe I like Batherson a lot. I know there's been some inconsistencies. Potentially, that's a guy that you get someone's attention with, but they're not at that
you
point
need
with
to win.
Drake Batherson.
You need to win,
but
you can't take out a 30-goal scorer potentially.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just telling you why Joseph was scratched because when you go by process elimination, you get to Matthew Joseph. Say, okay, we'll take this guy out of the lineup, and then that's what you do, and you move forward, and you hope it works. Problem is, it didn't work because in San Jose, well, it worked for one period. The team went out.
They were great.
They played. They were so good, so good. Full marks to San Jose, and I thought their goaltending was excellent in the first period. And Ottawa they've got a real tough time playing a full 60 minutes of not making those big mistakes. And you go back to the game, of all people to make a key mistake, Zub turns the puck over at a bad time, and sure enough, that's a goal Talbot would want back, but ends up in the back of your net. And it just always seems to be biting the Ottawa Senators. If the defense aren't playing good, then your goaltenders play good. The defense start playing well, your goaltenders start struggling. And then there's the constant down the middle of that lack of experience, which here's the thing. If you go down and you look at good teams in the NHL right now, Wally, the Boston Bruins, Why are they a good team? Look at them down the middle right now. Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci. Two guys who have a ton of experience in the National Hockey League. Not the only reasons, but if you went through every single roster in the league and you looked at the teams that are successful, you're going to find a lot of things similar with these teams. One constant you'll find is they have strength down the middle, because that's how you win in the league. And Ottawa's just not there yet. And I don't care how good your structure is. I don't care how good your coach is. If you are weak at the center ice position, it is really tough to win in the NHL. And throw in that the Ottawa's defense has been injured and they weren't very good to begin with. It's a recipe for losing hockey. And that is, you can blame all the coach you want. And I'm not saying the coach doesn't share some of the blame here, but those are big reasons why you don't win in the National Hockey League. Huge reasons. Even the possession game, Wally. Yep. I talked about this before. If you want to play possession hockey, if you want to play structured hockey, it comes from your defense and your centers. I played wing. I played wing for about 2 months with the Detroit Red Wings. I was actually on Sergei Fedorov's line. It was so funny, Wally. He goes, I'm sitting on the bench in Detroit.
Did not know this.
Yeah, so I'm a defenseman in Detroit. Scotty Bowman, I'm not playing very much. He looks down and goes, York, get up here and play on Fedorov's line. So I'm like, what the fuck? Shit. I'm like shitting bricks. I'm going to play with Sergei Fedorov. Sitting on the bench. Fedorov looks at me, smiles. He's like, Yorkie, just go to the net with your stick on the ice. 2 shifts later, I could skate pretty good back then. I go to the net, stick on the ice. Fedorov zips it across, right in the back of the net. Scored a goal with Sergei Fedorov playing right wing. But my point is, when I was playing on the wing, I felt like I had horse blinders on. Because when you're a winger, you don't see all the ice. You're on your section of the ice, and I know you crisscross in today's NHL. And when you come back into the D zone, the first guy back plays down low. I get all that. I know all that. Hey, listen, I played in the league for a long time. But I'm telling you, the wing position is the least important of all the positions on an NHL team, because they have the least amount of factors on what goes on, shift in and shift out in the NHL. Listen, you need guys that can score. You need guys that are really good wingers, but maybe it's just me, but you don't build a team around having really, or putting all your eggs in one basket on the wing. And that's really, Wally, when you look at this team right now, where is the predominant strength of the Ottawa Senators? Where is it? Claude Giroux, DeBrincat, Tkachuk, Batherson. I'll throw Joseph in there. That's where you've put most of your eggs in the basket as far as your forward group goes. And 2 years from now, when we're sitting down looking at this team, and there's probably won't be the same team, but by 2 years from now, Pinto will have more experience, Stützle will have more experience, and they're going to be ready for the role that they're eventually going to be in. Like it just structure, defensive play, all that. It takes years. I played with Patrice Bergeron his first year, Wally. He wasn't a good defensive player. It takes time. It takes time. So, anyways, that's my Fedorov story for you.
Well, I just looked up your very first goal, by the way, assisted by Steve Yzerman, Victor Kozlov, and your second goal scored assisted by Nick Lidstrom. That's a pretty good group.
Unfortunately, though, I got stuck in a lockout. Then we came back. Detroit was predicted to win the Stanley Cup. Bob Probert had moved on. He had some issues, all well documented. I had worked my way up into Detroit's system to be one of their top prospects. I got traded for Stu Grimson. Detroit then went on to win a couple Stanley Cups, because back then you had to have an enforcer. So I went to Anaheim, which was awesome, but a couple Stanley Cups I might have missed out there in Detroit. I always joke with Aaron Ward. I say, Wardo, you've got 2 of my rings, bud. Hope you're enjoying them.
I want to bring him on at some point, actually. Okay, quickly awesome. Before we get out of here, I did speak with someone who was a former executive with the team yesterday, and one of the things they pointed out was Ottawa doesn't have mentors. They don't have a mentor for Thomas Chabot. They never really have had one for him.
Yeah.
And they don't have mentors for guys down the middle. They do have Derek Brassard this year, so I guess they have done that a little bit. But they don't have – Josh Norris doesn't have anybody. Tim Stützle, those guys for a couple of years here haven't had somebody to really take them under their wing. And that's been a huge part of their game not being able to develop because they haven't had someone around. So, like, I would like to see Chris Phillips getting on the ice, or even Chris Neal for that matter, bringing in guys who can help them be mentors.
So right now, the situation with the Ottawa Senators, everyone's on high alert. Coaches are on high alert. GM's on high alert. It's now you get to the point where you're nervous because coaching in the NHL is a big deal. Being an assistant coach in the NHL is a huge deal. You make lots of money. Those jobs are hard to come by. You tell me you're an assistant coach and you're running the D, you want to see Chris Phillips coming on the ice?
Fair enough.
I'm just telling you how it works. That's how it works. That's how the NHL coaching fraternity business is dirty, dirty business. Nobody wants threats around. And would it be best for the team? Absolutely. You get Philly out there. Even Wade Redden. You have Reds in there as player development, but he's in Kelowna right now. His job predominantly now is to work with prospects, go around, talk to the guys they've drafted to. That's what he does. But I look at, you brought it up, so I look at the way, because back to DJ. DJ is getting a ton of heat right now. Forget, it's your staff as a whole that teaches structure, that is responsible for how your team plays. And when you look at Ottawa's staff in particular, you've got three head coaches. You got Davis Payne, you got DJ Smith, and you've got Jack Capuano. I'm with you. I would love to see someone, and they also have Bob Jones. Bob Jones is the guy that DJ Smith picked. He was the guy that he brought in. Mm-hmm. He kind of inherited Capuano and he inherited Davis Payne. Here's the truth. When DJ Smith got the job, his plan was to bring Bob Boughner in as his assistant coach and run the D. Look at Detroit right now. What's Detroit doing? Look at what Bob Boughner did in San Jose when Brent Burns had some of his best years. People don't realize that because people haven't been behind the scenes. The assistant coaches for NHL teams are so important. Well, look at New Jersey right now. Who'd they bring in this summer?
Andrew Brunette.
Andrew Brunette is a guy. Well, he just had success as a head coach, but he's probably a little more suited to being an assistant coach. But he's a guy that players can go talk to, because when things are going bad or well, you need a guy you can go bitch at or you can ask for advice, and he's going to be there. And hey, I'm not saying they don't have that right now with the Ottawa Senators makeup, because I'm not there. But having a guy like a Brunette, having a guy like you said, a Chris Phillips, or even a Sean Donovan, a Jesse Winchester, guys that aren't that farly removed from the game that the players can go talk to, it helps an awful lot. It helps a lot. So that's I had this question posed at me. Well, how did Jacques Martin do so well with a team? And they said, how did he turn lemons into lemonade? Somebody asked me that today. And I said, hold on a second. Are you calling me a lemon? Because I played for Jacques for 5 years. But it wasn't just Jacques Martin that was teaching the system. We had two incredible coaches. One was Perry Pern, and the other was a guy by the name of Craig Ramsey. Craig Ramsey won Selke Trophy when he was in Buffalo. He was a defensive specialist. He just had a way about him to relate with the players, and you could go talk to him. If things were going poorly, you could go talk to him, and it was off the record, and it wouldn't get back to the head coach. And those are reasons why Jacques was a great coach, but his staff was excellent as well. So, hey, DJ, he's taking some of the blame here, but you got to remember, coaching, it's more than just the head coach. It's your staff as a whole, because everyone's part of it. Everyone's doing stuff. Everyone's got a role. And like, you look where they're at right now, you can't just blame one person. But hey, the buck stops with the coach, but it's just a little bit of behind the scenes what happens. But I'm with you. I think that could really help the Senators, but it's not going to happen. It's, especially what's going on right now. The last thing a assistant coach wants is somebody sniffing around their job.
No, it's a very good point. Let me bring up something. Let's end on a entertainment little bit of value, shall we? And that is, I want to say a couple of days ago, you tweeted out about, it must have been on Saturday or Sunday, but I think it was after the game, about the game against New Jersey. And Alex, if you have that tweet, we will bring it up. And that was about what New Jersey basically did to, nope, not that one, what New Jersey did to Ottawa as a little brother, big brother type scenario. So here it is. Today's Sens game felt like your older brother pinning you down and giving you a pink belly with his buddies while you're helpless. Yes, New Jersey dominated that game. But my point was, like, is there a top 4 things a big brother would do to a little brother of annoyance?
So I'll tell you what, my brother Jeff, who by the way has been rumored and all kinds of stuff with the Ottawa Sens. We'll just leave that alone right now.
I have been trying to be so good about this. I wasn't gonna. So it's funny you said that. Jeff, as you said, Jeff York, I was gonna be rumored owner. Yeah. Anyway,
so Jeff, so Jeff sends me a message because he used to be the one that administered these different forms of torture on me as a kid. Who, by the way, I believe helped build character in me, just bullying me and administering the pink belly. And for those that don't know what a pink belly is, it's when you hold down somebody, you lift the arms up, and you lift the shirt up, and you just keep swatting the belly, just slapping the belly until the belly turns pink. So other forms of torture, Wally, that were predominant in my era, I don't know about you, but I'd say a close second was the skinhead, where they would grab your hair and basically just pull it back really hard like that until you felt like your hair was going to come out. Number two was the old. Sorry, but I feel like I got hair like Elliotte right now. They just grab the knuckles and the old coconut, and they just keep hammering. They give you the coconut head, and then the other one was the pinch in the arm. You know that little spot underneath the arm there? That's called the horse. That's called the horse bite. And then you brought this one up to me, Wally. The Charlie horse, where somebody just comes in and they just start kneeing you in the side of your leg to give you a Charlie horse. That's lots of fun, eh? So those would be. You must have one or two to add.
Well, Yorkie, I'm a lover, not a fighter. So this stuff, my older brother was nice to me, and I have no issues. There was was it called a noogie where they would just rub their knuckles on your head?
Oh, the noogie. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You just the noogie was you just keep you just keep going in there and just So that's Well, that's back in the day too. Don't forget, where at the schoolyard, you had that huge pile of snow, about 20 feet high, and kids would try and get to the top of the mountain during recess, and you'd play King of the Hill. And basically, there would be kids on the hill throwing kids to the bottom, kids trying to get to the top of the hill. It was all out war to get to the top. So let's just say, as you and I both have kids, if those kind of things were going on today, you probably get suspended from school and maybe never let back in. But
we don't condone any of this.
No, we don't. Listen, we're not saying any of this is good. But that's anyone that's of our age. You guys know what we're talking about. You guys, girls. It's I used to have great battles with my sister too. Awesome battles. So she, the good old days.
All right. Well, let's hope there's a little bit more fight in the Senators tomorrow night as they take on Vegas and try to, I don't know, right this bit of a ship. But this is a tall task to try and fight their way out of with Vegas. So we shall see what's about to transpire.
Hey, by the way, you like my hat? Had this custom made. My wife made this for me, Laurel, for my I think it was for my 50th birthday. I'm a big fan of old fashions. You got nothing?
You know what? I don't like orange, an old fashions with orange, right?
You don't like an old fashioned?
I don't
It's
like
with,
orange in my drink. No, just give it to me straight.
You don't have to just give it just straight whiskey. An old fashioned, it's just you can use bourbon, whiskey, a little bit of bitters, sugar cube, or a little bit of maple, and then you could put the little orange peel just skimming around the rim of your glass. But didn't you watch Mad Men? That's where it got popular. At the office back when you watch Mad Men on Netflix, they all drank old fashions at work during the day. See, there you go. There's the old fashions. But
no, I don't. It looks good. I don't want fruit in my drink. So
you don't have to have the fruit. But the other little key, I know we got to go here. If you take your cherries and you soak them in bourbon and you put them away in the fridge, perfect, absolutely perfect. Don't put an orange in my beer. Don't put one in my whiskey or my scotch. Nothing. Do not. Well, Ryan Leslie hosts out in Calgary for Sportsnet. We have a thing going that anytime, and by the way, a good old fashioned is all about the glass too. Anytime either of us are enjoying a good old fashioned, we have to send a little pic of the old fashioned. It's just a little thing we do. I don't know why.
All right. Fine. We're moving on from here. We'll be back Thursday. Thank everybody for stopping by and hang out with us for an hour. We appreciate it. Thank you, as always, to Elliotte Friedman. And the Coming In Hot Show, brought to you by Renfrew Pro Tape and by BEI. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. See ya.